to see something cool. These people are building a special part of the hospital, just for kids like you." Noah's eyes lit up. "Can I show them my ideas?" I drew pictures of what a space hospital would look like. Graham met Ara's gaze, seeking permission. She nodded amused. "Just remember your inhaler if you get excited. The developer's serious. Men and women in expensive suits were not prepared for Hurricane Noah." The 5-year-old burst into the conference room with his notebook full of crayon drawings showing hospital rooms decorated with stars and planets. See, Noah pointed to his drawings. The ceiling could look like the real sky, and the machines could make space noises instead of beeping, and look, the doctors could wear spacesuits instead of boring white coats. To Graham's surprise, the lead architect actually looked interested. The ambient lighting concept could work, and themed medical equipment might help reduce anxiety in young patients. The psychological impact of environment on pediatric recovery rates is well documented. Ara added her nurse's expertise, showing Noah's ideas might seem fanciful, but the principle is sound. Graham watched his son explain his vision, supported by his mother's professional insights. In that moment, he saw not just his family, but his legacy, not the cold corporate empire his mother had envisioned, but something warmer, more human, a place where business and compassion could coexist. After the meeting, Noah crashed on the office sofa, tired but happy. Ara tucked a blanket around him, one of several that had migrated from her apartment to the penthouse. "He's going to change the world someday," Graham said softly. "He already has." I touched Noah's cheek gently. Had changed ours. The setting sun painted the office in soft gold, and Graham was struck by how right this felt. His son sleeping peacefully, R's presence filling the spaces that had always been empty. "The life he should have had all along. Move in with me," he said. Suddenly R's hand stilled on Noah's blanket. "What, both of you move in here? We're here most of the time anyway." "Noah loves the view, the space for his projects. You wouldn't have to commute so far to the hospital. We could." Graham Era's voice was gentle but firm. "We can't just—" "Why not?" He moved closer, careful not to wake Noah. "Give me one reason that isn't about the past. One reason that isn't about fear." "Because," Era struggled, then sighed, "because I'm still in love with you, and that terrifies me." The confession hung in the air between them. Graham's heart thundered in his chest. "It should terrify you," he said finally, "because I'm still in love with you too." Never stopped, really, and this time I could lose so much more than just you. I could lose him too. "You won't." Allah's voice was fierce. "Whatever happens between us, you're Noah's father. That doesn't change, but everything else could change." Graham reached for her hand, encouraged when she didn't pull away. "Maybe for the better. We're not who we were 6 years ago, Ara. I'm not that weak man who let his mother rule his life. You're not that young woman who had to protect herself from being hurt. We've grown, evolved. Maybe it's time our relationship evolved." Noah stirred slightly, mumbling something about Mars in his sleep. They both looked at their son, this miracle they'd created together. "One condition," Ara said finally. "We take it slow. We don't tell Noah we're exploring this until we're sure he deserves stability." "Agreed." Graham squeezed her hand. "But about moving in, that's practical." Ara conceded. "For Noah's sake, the security here is better, and the school is actually closer, but I keep my apartment for now as a safety net, whatever you need." Graham touched her cheek softly. "I'll wait. I'll prove myself, however long it takes." The sun had set fully now, stars appearing in the darkening sky. Noah would want to use the telescope when he woke up. Their son, who loved the stars, who dreamed of space, who had unknowingly drawn his parents back into each other's orbit. "Did you know," Noah mumbled, half awake, "that some stars are actually two stars, so close together they look like one?" Graham and exchanged glances, wondering how much he'd heard, but Noah just yawned and snuggled deeper into his blanket. "Binary stars," Graham said softly. "They orbit each other, neither one complete without the other." R's fingers tightened around his. Outside, the city lights twinkled like earthbound stars. And somewhere in the vast night sky, Jupiter's great storm kept spinning eternal and patient, just like love. 6 months later, Graham stood in the newly completed pediatric wing of Boston General, watching his son captivate an audience. Noah, now 6, was officially cutting the ribbon for the space-themed children's ward that had been inspired by his drawings. And this, Noah explained to the gathered donors and press his small voice clear and confident, is the galaxy room where kids can watch the stars while they get their medicine, because space makes everything better. Beside Graham, Sarah squeezed his hand. She wore an elegant blue dress for the occasion. Though her hospital ID still hung around her neck, she had insisted on remaining hands-on with patient care, despite her recent promotion to Director of Pediatric Nursing. "He's a natural," Dr. Rodriguez remarked, watching Noah point out the constellations painted on the ceiling, just like his father, with presentations, but with his mother's heart. Graham's throat tightened with emotion. The past 6 months had been transformative. Noah had flourished. His asthma better controlled, his confidence growing. The media interest had faded, replaced by genuine admiration for the family's philanthropy and dedication to children's healthcare. Even Evelyn had begun to change after 3 months of silence. She'd appeared at the penthouse one Sunday morning, not to criticize but to listen. She'd sat quietly as Noah explained the solar system, actually smiling when he corrected her astronomy facts. It was a small step, but a significant one. And Noah was saying, "My grandma is helping other kids like me get special doctors for their breathing problems." The Whitaker Foundation's new focus on pediatric respiratory care had been Evelyn's olive branch. Perhaps she couldn't undo the past, but she could help shape a better future. "Dad," Noah called out, "can you tell them about the special equipment? The one that looks like a spaceship." Graham stepped forward, lifting Noah onto his hip, a gesture that now felt as natural as breathing. "The new pulmonary function testing unit does look a bit like a spaceship, doesn't it, buddy? But more importantly, it'll help doctors understand exactly how to help kids breathe better." As Graham explained the technical details to the donors, he felt presence beside him, steady and sure they'd moved in together 3 months ago, though she'd kept her apartment as promised. But last week, she'd quietly begun packing it up. Neither had mentioned it directly, but they both knew what it meant, and now the hospital administrator announced, "I invite you all to the reception in the new family lounge." The crowd moved away, leaving the family alone in the galaxy room. Noah wiggled down from Graham's arms, running to the window seat designed to his specifications. "Can we stay here a minute?" he asked. "I want to show you something." Graham and Ara exchanged glances, then joined their son on the cushioned window seat outside. The Boston skyline glittered in the early evening light. "I made this for you," Noah said, pulling a slightly crumpled paper from his pocket. "For both of you, it was a drawing. More sophisticated than his earlier works, it showed the 3 of them standing under a starry sky, but this time they weren't in a rocket ship. They were in front of a house, a detailed rendering of Graham's penthouse, complete with the telescope. On the balcony, it's our home," Noah explained, "all of us together forever." Aya's breath caught. They hadn't told Noah about her moving in permanently, wanting to be certain before disrupting his world again. "See," Noah pointed to the stars he'd drawn. "That's the constellation I invented. Remember, when I had to make one for school, I called it Familia Nova, New Family, because that's what we are." Graham met Ara's eyes over their son's head in them. He saw the same love, hope, and certainty he felt in his own heart. "Noah," Ara said softly, "how would you feel if we made this official? If Mom and her things moved in with you and Dad permanently?" Noah's face lit up. "Really? You mean it really?" Graham confirmed. "If that's what you want, but that's not all," continued her voice trembling slightly. "How would you feel if Mom and Dad got married again?" Graham's heart stopped. They hadn't discussed this, hadn't planned it, but looking at now, he knew it was right. They'd spent 6 months rebuilding trust, relearning each other, creating something stronger than what they'd had before. Noah looked between them, his expression serious. Would everything change? No. Buddy, Graham assured him, we'd still be us. Still have our space talks and telescope nights, still be a family, we'd just be making it official like you said in your drawing, and we'd never do it without making sure you're okay with it, Ara added. Noah considered this with characteristic thoroughness. Would we still live here with the telescope and the stars? Yes, they answered. Together, and would Grandma still come for Sunday breakfast? She's getting better at space facts, Graham smiled. Yes, if you want her to. And would we still help other kids at the hospital? Because I have more ideas for the space rooms. Always Ara promised. That's part of who we are now. Noah nodded solemnly. Then I think it's a good idea, because you know what I learnt about stars? Sometimes they look separate, but they're actually binary stars, always meant to be together. Like you said, Dad, remember Graham? Pulled both Noah and R. A close his family finally complete in his arms, through the window. The first stars of evening were appearing, including Jupiter bright and steady in the darkening sky. I have one condition. Though Noah added seriously, what's that, baby? Ara asked. Can we have the wedding in the galaxy room, and can I wear my NASA tie? Graham laughed, the sound full of joy and promise. I think that's perfect after all. It was space that brought us back together. No. Ara corrected, gently touching Noah's cheek. It was. Love, and a little boy who saw the universe in everything outside a shooting star. Streak across the sky, a cosmic punctuation mark to their moment of perfect alignment. Noah gasped in delight, but Graham and were looking only at each other, seeing in each other's eyes the same truth. Sometimes love takes a roundabout path through the stars. Sometimes you have to lose your way to find your true constellation. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, the universe gives you a second chance to make things right, not just for yourself, but for the beautiful, brilliant child who drew your hearts back together with crayon stars and endless dreams of space. I love you. Graham whispered the words meant for both his son and the woman who'd given him this second chance, at happiness to infinity. Noah asked, using their new favorite phrase and beyond. Ara complete, her smile as bright as any star, because some loves are written in the stars. Some families are destined to find their way back to each other, and some stories, like the great storms of Jupiter, keep spinning through time and space until they find their perfect ending, not in the cold reaches of outer space, but in the warm embrace of a family, finally beautifully cosmically complete one year. Later, the observation deck of the Museum of Science buzzed with quiet excitement as a small crowd gathered for a private event. Noah, now 7, stood proudly next to his new high-powered telescope, a joint gift from his parents and grandmother for his role in tonight's presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, Rodriguez announced to the assembled hospital board members and donors, I present our youngest astronomy club mentor, Noah Monroe Whitaker. Noah stepped forward, confidence radiating. From his small frame, he wore a miniature version of his father's suit, complete with his beloved NASA tie and his mother's warm smile. Welcome to the first meeting of the Children's Astronomy Health Initiative. Lai. He began, his voice clear and strong, where kids like me can learn about space while getting better. The program had been Noah's idea, combining his love of astronomy with helping other children managing chronic conditions. Every month, young patients from Boston General would gather here to stargaze, learn about space, and forget about their health challenges. For a while, Graham stood at the back of the room, his arm around Ara, who now wore not just her hospital ID, but also adamant ring that caught the starlight streaming through the observatory's dome. Their own wedding 6 months ago had indeed taken place in the galaxy room, with Noah playing the dual role of best man and ring bearer. Look. Noah pointed excitedly through his telescope. You can see Jupiter's moons tonight. Did you know that Jupiter's great red spot is starting to change color? Scientists think it might be because, as their son launched into his explanation, Ara leaned into Graham's embrace. He's still teaching us something new. Every day, just like his mother. Graham murmured, kissing her temple. Evelyn Whittaker, seated in the front row, beamed with genuine pride as her grandson fielded questions from the audience. She'd found her own redemption in supporting Noah's vision turning. The Whittaker Foundation's considerable resources toward children's healthcare initiatives. After the presentation, the family gathered on the observation deck. Noah was showing a young patient in a wheelchair how to focus the telescope, his gentle. "Patience pure are our dad, mom, come look," he called. "You can see our constellation." They joined him at the telescope, and sure enough, they're shown the stars of Familia Nova, now officially recognized by the International Astronomical Union through a special educational initiative. The certificate hung proudly in Noah's room, right next to the crayon drawing that had started it all. "You know what else is special about tonight?" Noah asked, his eyes twinkling with a secret. "What's that, buddy?" Graham asked. "I'm gonna be a big brother." Soon right, Ara gasped softly, her hand moving instinctively to her stomach. They hadn't told anyone yet. The news was barely a week old. "How did you?" She started. Noah grinned. "You've been drinking ginger tea instead of coffee, just like my friend Ashley's mom. Before she had a baby, and Dad's been extra careful about your lifting things at home. Plus," he added with impeccable logic, "our constellation has room for one more star." Graham laughed, pulling both Noah and Ara close. "You really don't miss anything, do you?" "Nope." Noah looked up at the stars. "I think it's a girl. Then she can be like the smaller moons of Jupiter, just as important as the big ones. But in her own special way, through the observatory's dome, Jupiter shone bright and steady. It's eternal. Storm, a reminder that some of the universe's most beautiful things come from chaos, just like their family had emerged from the storms of the past, stronger and more beautiful than before, to infinity." Noah asked, starting their familiar phrase and beyond. His parents responded together, their voices blending under the vast canopy of stars, because some endings are really just new beginnings. Some families grow stronger with each challenge, and some love stories don't end with happily ever after. They just keep expanding like the universe itself, infinite in their capacity for joy, growth and discovery. Up in the night sky, the stars of Familia Nova twinkled brightly, marking the path home for a family that had found its way not just to each other, but to a love as vast and endless as space itself. Have you ever lived a love story that took you all the way around the sun to find your true destiny, just like Graham and Ara, who had to wait 6 years in the innocent wisdom of a child to rediscover that some loves are written in the stars? Do you believe that there are loves that never die? They just wait for the right moment to rekindle, like the constellations that always return to the same point in the sky. Your participation in the channel is very important. Please leave your opinion in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to our channel and leave a comment below, letting us know what you thought. Your feedback and support mean a lot to us. Stay tuned for more exciting stories.